All right, hey there, viewers. First things first, let me just wish you a Merry Christmas if you are watching this today as I post it, because it is Christmas Day. So, a little bit different setup right now. I'm kind of mobile at my parents' home. We just got done doing some Christmas stuff, waiting on some food in the oven, and then we'll be doing all the festive eating, putting on weight, all that. But hopefully, I still have this set up okay to where the audio and everything comes out good. So, otherwise, I apologize in advance. Like I said, I'm at my parents' place. I'm upstairs right now, sitting next to the squirrel that they're pet sitting for their neighbor. Yes, you heard me right. A squirrel that their neighbor has as a pet. I don't get it either, but that's something that people do, I guess. So, without more details, let's just get into the video today. I kind of want to talk about, with the new year coming, a way that we could look into how to track our portfolio and stocks throughout the rest of the year. 2019 could be a nice clean slate. And I have a few thoughts on different ways that you could track your Robinhood portfolio yourself, just to like double check that everything in it looks correct. And I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on some of them, and maybe just comment below on stuff that you've done in the past that's worked well for you, or maybe offer some ways to improve what I'm going to go through in this video. So the reason I would like to go through something like this is because, it's always best practice to track stocks yourself in addition to your broker. But Robinhood does have a way to track your history. If you're not familiar with it, you can go to your account tab on the website or on the app and go to history, and it should be able to tell you your different dividends, rewards, orders, transfers, all that. Or you could go to a stock. Let's go to the one that I've been doing a lot with lately. Sorry about this if you're, not a fan of the bear market, but I kind of started going to this stock pretty recently with all the issues going on. But, there's a history section for each individual stock, and you can use that to kind of track your stuff as well. But I like to try and keep stuff, a little off that side as a secondary backup just in case. So I've got some different thoughts on how I can do that with 2019. And to do all of them, my favorite thing to do with tracking, or at least America's probably, is just with Excel. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. So overall, I have three different kind of methods that I've been kind of tinkering with. The first one is just covering your buying power on a daily basis within the app. The second one is to just keep a running total of like pretty much everything that happens. And the third one would just be like a full tracking of, everything that you do with every stock, so that you have just all of those details ready at any time throughout the year, and maybe some other benefits to it. So let's go ahead and get started with the first one, which would just be buying power. So when you are in your Robinhood app and you go to your account, you can see that you have a certain amount of buying power based on how much money you have available to buy and sell stocks with. So one way that would be easy to make sure that all your transactions and your dividends go through correctly would be to start with that amount at the beginning of the day and check what it is at the end of the day, and then compare it to tomorrow's amount. So, for example, we have $569.22 today. So we'll say $569.22 today. Let's make that a decimal. And then we say, oh, I also added, let's go over to another column just to kind of help split them up. But let's say I added $50 from my bank account, but then I spent $20 on a single stock, and then I sold a stock for getting $15 for that one stock, and that's it for the day. So at the end of the day, I say, okay, I can take my beginning and add it to the sum of all of my transactions from this column. And that would give me what my new end of day buying power should be. So then tomorrow, if I open it up and I see let's say $618.22, then that means I either had money get put in from a bank transfer, or I got a dividend payment. So that would be a way for me to confirm whether or not I got a dividend payment. So now with this new day, I would just kind of reset this sheet. Maybe in here put, today's date of 12/25/2018. And then tomorrow, when it goes to this amount, I'll change this, say 6/18/22, arrow over, and change that to say 12/26/2018. And, this is kind of an exaggeration, but that would be pretty much the idea. And then you can just restart the sheet over. It's kind of flipping out on me because I'm messing with the scroller here again. I'm not on my normal setup, but now I would know at the beginning of the day this is what I had, and then I could track it each day and do a daily summary of however much money I should have as a buying power. And that would kind of help me keep track and make sure that all my transactions that I was expecting go through have gone through. And that's kind of I know that's not really the best to actually have specific detail information, but if you're buying and selling stocks all the time, like you're not a long-term investor, you're doing a lot of swing trades over the course of the year, that's a lot of transactions to log. So this offers a simple method to keep track of all of that information. So that's kind of why I'm saying this may be a potential option for just keeping track of Robinhood, as long as I just also make sure that I have that information getting emailed to me, because that's another benefit is when you do a transaction with Robinhood, they send you an email of it. So you do still have a record. It would just not be as easy to extract as it would be in a list. So option one here, track your buying power from day to day, is, in my opinion, the simplest and most efficient way to manage and make sure that all your transactions are good throughout the year. Again, not as much detail, but it is simple for those of you that are not doing that are trading a lot, more active traders. So that's pretty much it. My next option, which I said is kind of the third one, just more to really round out this video, but not really, in my opinion, a desirable method, would just be a straight running total of your account. I'm not even really sure how well this would work out, so please, if you have something similar to that, sorry about that. If you have something similar to this, please comment below on how you've done it and share that with other people, because I'm still not entirely certain how something like this will work out. But my idea is, every time you do something that gives you a plus or a minus, it's similar to the buying power, except you just run that into your account total. So you say I did $500 for my first ever deposit into Robinhood. And then I spent $25 on a stock. And I spent $30 on another stock. And then I sold one of those stocks for $28, and so on and so forth, until eventually I just have a sum of what my current account total should be. And that would be it. No, that did not work out at all. I'm sorry, hold on a second. Let's just run to, if you ever have issues like this, this may be a quick little Excel tip for you, but if this loads, it will be. No, it doesn't look like it's going to want to respond to me. This could be, sorry again for the delay. There we go. Let's just change that guy to a number. There's probably something left over from the previous part of having a date there. Sorry about that. So now we could say equals the sum of these guys. And then you have your total throughout the year, so that every time you make a transaction, you spend another $50 on a stock, another $40 on a stock. Eventually you sell all of those for, 32 for the other one, 55 for the next, and 42, you're assuming you profited all of them. So at this point now you have no stocks, but you have 512 in your account. And that's kind of what you're expecting, is you've made $12 profit overall. So there's more that you can add on to this, but again, another very simple method, but it doesn't provide a whole lot of details. So it would just be a absolute running total. All you would do is just keep adding the transaction amount of anything that happened, a dividend, a bank transfer, a withdrawal, bought a stock, sold a stock, anything would just go in and add to this column to keep your running total here, so that if you were to just clear out your account, this is how much you should have at that time. And that would be another way for you to be able to just kind of track your portfolio and make sure that you can check later on in 6 months and say, okay, I should have about this much available if I were to close out everything. Again, please, if you have ways that will improve this simply, then please comment below. Otherwise, that's pretty much not really a recommended option by me. And again, a disclaimer, I'm not a professional. I'm not some kind of stock manager or accountant. I'm just doing this stuff personal, still trying to figure out the best way to do it. But we'll move on to option number 3, which is one that I've kind of worked with this year, and it's kind of the one that I prefer. And we'll get ourselves a fresh sheet so that we don't have to worry about any of that data cell formatting again. But the way that I would kind of recommend, especially if you're doing less trades and more long-term investing, would just to be a full tracker and kind of just make a big blown customized sheet that you can continuously edit every time you do something in Robinhood. So, for example, I would start out with just a overall, overview sheet, and we'll just name this one down here, I don't know, like total or something, to kind of tell us that it's pretty much everything. And we'll say, out of this, we want to know our deposits and withdrawals and everything. In here, we can do the banking. So we could say, deposit, withdrawal, and just label some column heads here. Give us like a banking total so that we know all of the withdrawals and stuff that were from the bank that doesn't really add monetary value to us. It's just stuff that we've put in and taken out. So we'll keep that kind of separate over here. And then we'll have ourselves like an actual total for the account. And that'll just be our overview. So, maybe we deposit $500 to start, then like $20, $20, $20 each week or some crap. You can add in a date somewhere in here so that you know specifically when you deposited this. But I'm going to skip dates for now just so that we're not focused on that. But I would recommend having an extra column in every one of these sections to have a date so that you can actually look back at that transaction history and say, oh, on the 26th of December right here is when I actually deposited $20, and then you'll have that information available. So I'm not going to do that right now, but definitely recommend having a date for everything in this spreadsheet that we're going to do. So then we could say our banking total is, oh man, this keeps coming up. I'm going to have to look into this color scheme thing because it never has issues except for when I'm recording. So we could say banking total is equal to the sum of this guy minus the sum, of this guy, so that we have our deposits minus our withdrawals. So we could say we withdrew $20 sometime. That tells, it's not an actual stock capital gain. It's just a withdrawal, so that we'll have our whole banking total set up here. And then we can actually have our total that we'll set up a formula for at a later time here. So now we have our overview banking, and we'll get to this total later on. We can start adding a actual setup for our individual stocks. So I recommend setting up a template. So that's what we'll call this, template, and say, okay, every time that we have a stock, we want to add another sheet based on this template. So let's get everything into this template so that it can be used and copied and pasted for every time we, buy or sell a new stock. Let's go ahead and say, AMD or something. They're a pretty common one right now. So if we say, skipping the date and all that, let's go with the buy price, the quantity, sell. Let's give it a total. So in this example, we'll say the buy price is the strike price that you're actually buying it per share, and then however many shares, and that'll be your total. So if you bought AMD at $16 for 20 shares, then this guy would be equal to that times your quantity. So you spent $320 on this transaction. So that'll be our buy column. So now we'll say sell price. So later on we can track that as well. Sell total. And we'll say down the line, you sell it for, let's be optimistic and say $17 and you made some money. So now we say equals this guy times the quantity is 340. So we know that, optimistically speaking, you would have made $20 between buying and selling here. But since this is just a template, this is not really important. This won't actually be AMD. I'm just giving you an example. This is still a template. Remember that. Don't actually start putting in your information yet. Just set up a simple one-liner formula so that you have it in there and you can test it. So you can buy stocks, you can sell stocks, you can also get dividends. So let's do a dividend column. Let's say X dividend date, so that you can type it in at some point, remember which one it was, and the dividend amount, and however many you get. So now we'll say, okay, on the first of the new year, I'm expecting them to, obviously AMD's not giving dividends, but, just again, put this information in here so we can do our formula and get it set. On the first of the new year, we're expecting them to give a dividend of 10 cents a share. And we had 20 shares at the time. So we expect the total dividend amount to be the amount times the quantity. So you would get a $2 dividend. Let's shrink this guy's in between because I don't know how much more we're going to keep adding. But now we have our buy and sell and dividend. And let's go ahead and add in the next section, which if you're in Robinhood, the only other real basic thing that you can do is options. So if you're not familiar with options, please look them up. I have maybe one other video that kind of covers them, but nothing specific. So please get familiar with it if you want to know more. Search it up. But let's just say we'll do an options. So again, add a date if you want, but we're not going to. We're just going to say the premium is kind of similar to the dividend amount if you're not familiar with options. So just imagine the premium is the amount per share and then the quantity. And if you're not familiar, options are always done in numbers of 100. So when you do the quantity of one contract with an option, it's 100 shares. I recommend just doing the premium and quantity as if it's per share instead of actually doing it per contract. Just makes it easier to keep everything aligned if you do it all as a total quantity. So let's say you did an options contract for 75 cents a share for one contract. So now your option total is the same as everything else that we've been doing, just the amount times the quantity. That's it. So now we have buy, sell, dividend, and options, and a way to track, how much you've made or sold or bought with each one of them. So now we need a way to tie those all in together. And to do that, we'll say, stock total. And this will be our overall amount that we have made or spent in this entire stock throughout our portfolio. And then we'll also add the current quantity because it'll just make it easier to make sure that when you've added all this information, you can check to see what your calculated current quantity is. In case you bought some and sold some in uneven quantities, and you want to make sure the amount in your Robinhood app shows the same as this spreadsheet so that you're not expecting to have more stocks, but it's showing that you have less. So it's just a nice thing that I think we could put in there. All right. So now to do this total, let me just double check. Okay. So now to do the total of it, we want to take the amount that we've sold, the amount that we've made. So this is supposed to be the amount that we have profited from this account. So we want the amount that we've sold minus the amount that we spent on it to get our total profit, along with adding in the dividend and premium from the options. So to do that, we will say equals the sum of our sales total minus the sum. Sorry, I'm sure there's a hotkey to click this, but I'm not familiar with it yet, so I just keep clicking over there. So we have this total of how much it cost us, and if that's all we did, then that just gives us the total for what we've made from buying and selling. But we're going to keep adding to that and say we want to include how much we've made with the dividend. So that's one thing that's advantageous of this, is that this portfolio will show you your total return between dividends, options, and stuff that you've already bought and sold. Whereas Robinhood, I'll show you in a second, only does the total return for the current stocks that you have. So this is where I think this is kind of advantageous. It's a little more work, but it'll be a better indicator for you in the long run. So we have how much we've made from buying and selling, and we want to add the sum of how much we've made throughout the dividends that we've been holding it for, as well as the sum of that option total. So that'll give us a total of $97 that we have made in this entire, stock throughout time. So if you were to keep adding in, I'll skip the math, but you bought 15, that shows that you have only made $82, but sell it for 20 total, and it'll show you how much you've actually made throughout this entire thing before. So that's just me kind of showing you that the formula does work. But again, you would just kind of drag these down so that the formula gets applied to all of them, or you would just add into each cell and then double click down. If you guys aren't familiar with Excel, please get familiar with it. It's a very useful tool for this stuff. So that's pretty much going to give us our total for this stock that we've profited from. Now, the thing to remember is if you have bought stock that you are holding and you have not sold it, then this number might be lower than you're expecting because you haven't sold it. So what's also nice is you could put in, say I bought it later on at a price of 18 for 10, and I say, okay, now I have 10 shares, but look at my negative. It's saying that I've lost money when I actually have not. I'm just still holding these. So one thing that it's kind of nice to see is how much do I need to sell it for to keep my overall return as a positive. So now I could say I have 10 stocks. First thing, let's get that formula into there. So now I could say, okay, what if I sold those for $17? Oh, that means that my overall profit from here is still a positive. But if the stock started going down and I sold it for 14, then my stock total would have gone down from what it was before, and I would have lost money between this transaction. So that's something that would be also kind of helpful if you guys do decide to go with a tracker like this, is you can help play out your options, and it might help you set your loss points a little easier. Again, man, wow, that has not happened this many times before. I am sorry. But okay, so that's our stock total. Sorry, I'm getting off topic. Let's go to our current quantity. So this one will be a little easier to set up. We just want to know how many stocks we have remaining. So we just want to say equals the sum of how many we've bought in this quantity. So how many we've bought minus how many we've returned to the market. And that will be our sale quantity. So there. So since we bought 20, sold 20, bought 10, and sold 10, it shows that we are even. But I found this other transaction, say we only sold 5 of them because we were just stopping some of the bleeding. It'll show, hey, you still have 5 stocks left. And that'll be another nice indicator. And then again, you can go to Robinhood and double check that your amount of shares that you show match up with how much your tracker shows. Otherwise, there's a discrepancy, and either Robinhood is messed up or maybe you input a wrong number somewhere, and you can double check that. But again, it's really nice to have this, especially with Robinhood being a newer broker and going through a whole lot of changes. They just got rid of their old like dividend payment partner, and they brought in their own. So there's been a lot of issues with dividends lately. So, again, this would be a really good way to track whether or not you're actually getting that dividend. At least, and also for the number of stocks. But again, very important. I recommend adding an actual date column like this so that you have the sell date and a buy date that you can actually look back on and say, I know I bought this many at this time at this price. And you can look back and review that against your Robinhood account. But they should also have sent you emails too. So if you need actual proof, not just a spreadsheet, remember that they send you emails when you first set up the account. So you should have all of that information as well. This is just a more viewable format. All right. So now we have our template set up. So we could say, okay, let's go ahead and move or copy. And we'll say create a copy, move it before in between these guys. And we'll rename this to stock AAA. Honestly, I don't actually know if that's a real stock. I feel like it is. I'm drawing a blank, but I'm pretty sure I've looked into this before. Either way. So now we have our stock total for AAA and, for AMD. So let's get rid of these guys so we have a difference. You can see one of them is showing 97, one of them is showing 13. So we're going to say between AAA and template will be where you're always adding new stocks now. But you want to know your overall total between everything in your portfolio. So to do that, you need to have a way to sum up all of the totals between your stocks. So in order to do this, you want to see what you've got in there from your banking as well as what you got from your stock totals. So you could make a separate one and just keep this as your stock total, or you could combine it with your banking total, which is what we're going to do here. But if you just want to know how much you're actually making, then all you have to do is take out this banking total. So to do that, we'll say we want this to equal our sum of the banking total plus our sum and now we want to sum up everything from our others. So in order to do that, we go from starting here, start at the tab that you want to. So it's important to have a beginning stock tab that will always be at the front. So you may want a template 1 and template 2 and actually put all of your stocks in between them. It might be important for this. Or just put the earliest alphabetical stock or whatever stock that you're always going to have at the front. So I'm on AAA, I'm holding down the shift key and I select template. So you can see it just kind of highlighted template, and it's actually holding both AAA and template tabs together. And I'm going to say, all right, for every single sheet between these guys, you can see up here in the formula builder, it's going from that sheet to this sheet, I want to sum up this cell. And it will always look at column S, row 2, and combine them. And I hit enter. I didn't put a parentheses on it, so it'll accept that. Just in case you guys do this, put the parentheses in the formula bar, otherwise it's going to ask you this, but that's it. So now let's go ahead and look at the cell and review it. We're taking the total from our banking on this current tab and adding it to the sum of everything between AAA and template. So anything from S2 here to S2 here, it will add that sum and put it into this addition as well. So let's go ahead and say, okay, we recently decided to buy another stock. Let's go ahead and add it between them and rename it stock BCD. So we can go ahead and get rid of these guys, get ourselves a fresh starting point, so that it'll make it a little easier to display how this works. So everything is blank here. We haven't bought it yet. Our total is 624. So remember that. That's what we're currently at for our whole portfolio, everything. But now we go to BCD and we say, okay, I want to buy 10 stocks at $10. Now, when we go, it shows minus $100 for this total. So you can see here, now it shows that we're down $100. But again, we're not actually down this $100. We just have 10 shares currently taken out. So if we were to, at a later point, sell them for $11, I'm in the wrong cell here, $11 for all 10 of them, now it shows that we've made a total gain of 10. And if we go back, it shows 634, which would mean that we have gained $10 from that buy and sell. And now this is what our whole portfolio is worth, including the bank transactions, AAA, BCD, and template. But again, after you've made the template, just keep all this stuff blank so it doesn't actually affect it. So, we put this in here to show the formulas, but after you've made the formulas, just, delete these out so that you have a clean slate every time you want to make a new stock. That's pretty much it for how I am thinking I'm going to do tracking for 2019. I've done it for the last few months, and it's worked out well. It's easy to manage. Again, once you have it set up, all you do if you bought a stock is you just say, okay, this price, that amount, 2 cells, and you're done. And if you have a date, 3 cells, and that's it. That's all it is. So if you set up this template and make a new tab for every single stock that you are working with, it's very easy to update at this point, and I think it's a very manageable system. The only thing is that just make sure that you do consistently update it and check that this is what kind of tracking you fits your needs. So again, you might not be okay with that issue where if you haven't sold anything yet, it doesn't show you that at your total. So this isn't a completely accurate total here. You may need to add on something to show you what your other total is with different criteria, as if somehow you can set a standard stock to say, okay, if I have these 10 currently out, add in the current price. And then you could say, well, right now Robinhood has this stock priced at 10.50, and then set up some kind of equation to simulate if you would sell all the remaining quantity at that price to always kind of give you a better idea of what your actual total is live. But I haven't really figured out anything like that, and I don't really care to. For me, it's good enough to just be able to go from stock to stock and just say, oh, I have 10 left. Let's just see what would happen. Type it in really quick here and see what it would look like if I sold it at the current price over here. And I just do that for each of them if I want to know what my current total looks like, relatively speaking. if you guys have any thoughts or suggestions about a good, easy way to give that kind of running total simulation, please comment it below and maybe I'll add it into mine. I'd appreciate it. But for me, I'm good with just updating it continually and actually looking more at my stocks individually than actually looking at my overall portfolio, or sorry, overall total. So I hope you guys found this helpful. Those are my three kind of ideas for 2019 portfolio tracking. Again, give it a thumbs up, a thumbs down if you thought it was helpful or not. Give it a comment if you have suggestions. I appreciate any feedback. And hopefully, you guys have a good holiday and a happy new year. And I will see you next time. Thanks.